Pokemon Emerald tells a tale about how selfishness can lead to catastrophic actions. Luckily for me, I haven't played it yet, meaning I've learned 0 lessons, and I can be as selfish as I want. In that spirit, let's play through Pokemon Emerald with the sole intention of making as much money as possible. Join me in my journey to break down Emerald and strip it for parts. A journey that required some of the most insane strategies I've ever come up with. Let's become Poke-millionaires. Again. As I start this new Emerald run, I'm focused on my one goal: make as much money as the game will let me. Every decision I make through the entire playthrough will be solely based on what makes the most profit. Catching all the Pokemon? Pass. Becoming the champion? Not my priority. Fostering a relationship with tiny creatures who've only known love through your friendship and creating an attachment that is simultaneously strengthened the more you both learn to rely on each other? Maybe if I have free time. Turning a fat profit is accomplished in 2 ways. Defeating trainers, which gives you prize money, and collecting items, which can be sold. Of course, making infinite money is not hard in this game. You can battle trainers over and over again. Poor Wally gives you more money every time you beat him. Isn't robbing him of his dignity enough? Money farming would make this challenge super boring, so let's set some ground rules. The first rule is that any repeatable money-making action is banned. Farming items with pickup, defeating the Elite Four over and over, playing Voltorb Flip for hours, forming a crippling addiction. Thankfully, it's all banned. Essentially, if I can do something profitable over and over, I'm not allowed to do it at all. The trainers that I am allowed to fight more than once are my rival and Wally, because I literally have to. With that in mind, I jump out of the moving truck, ready to build my empire. I had to ride in the back of a truck. I came from nothing. Okay, maybe I didn't come from nothing, because we were able to hire movers. Also, I have a GameCube. Do you know how expensive those are now? Professor Birch has gotten himself into a wacky situation, so I help him out in the hopes that he'll give me some money for my trouble. But he just gives me a Pokemon, which is worth $0. Think you'll make an extremely good trainer. Buddy, bro, man, I do not care about being a good trainer, okay? I want as much money as I can physically get, okay? So shut up about being a good trainer, I don't care. But don't worry, because Mudkip becomes very useful, and picking it over Trico and Torchic is financially the best decision. We'll talk about why later. But for now, every time I enter a new area, I'm thinking about 2 things. First, what items can I collect? Like this potion given to me in Oldale Town. I can sell it for 150 Pokédollars, which increases my net worth. You sell stuff here, cool. I will never... You're doing this pitch to the wrong person. The second thing to think about would be what trainers I can fight. Brendan challenges me on Route 103, and upon his defeat, he gives me $300. This is what I'm thinking about as I head over to Route 102 and defeat Youngster Calvin and his Poochyena. There are 3 other trainers available to fight on this route, but none of them are required to make it through. However, skipping them now and fighting them later is a financially savvy move. We'll have ways to make even more money from them later. I continue through Petalburg and the woods, collecting items and fighting mandatory trainers, and I find myself on Route 104. There's a flower shop here that prompts a lot of repeatable actions. First, there's an NPC who will give you a random berry every day. Obviously, this is a repeatable money-making action, so receiving any berries from her is banned. The other sister gives out the Whalmer Pail, which allows you to plant and grow berries. I'm making my rule that I can pick the initial berries grown, since this action itself isn't repeatable, but I'm not allowed to replant any berries. I make it to Rustboro now, and after collecting all the items, the next mandatory trainer here is the first gym leader, Roxanne. However, there are some other trainers I actually want to fight first. All of the fights in here are optional. You can go completely around them if you want to. However, these trainers have a special characteristic. Once you beat the gym leader, they no longer become accessible. You can't fight them after you beat the gym leader. So normally I'd want to wait and then come back, but I can't come back. These trainers can't be fought except for right now. So if I don't fight them, I'm just losing money. The 3 gym trainers are defeated, and Roxanne is up next. Mudkip easily takes out the Geodudes and does massive damage to Nosepass, but completing this fight with just Mudkip is not the most profitable way. It restored its health using an Oranberry. I want that Oranberry because it's an item that I can use to increase my net worth. So, we're not actually ready to do this fight yet. I need a Pokemon that learns an item stealing move, and Mudkip doesn't learn one, which means I need to catch one. Every Pokeball I use is lost money since I could instead sell that Pokeball for $100. So I only want to catch a Pokemon if it's absolutely necessary, meaning catching the Pokemon will be a net profit. And there's one Pokemon that would be a significant profit. On Route 116 north of Rustboro, there's a 2% chance of encountering a Skitty. This tiny kitten is great because at level 31, it learns the move we're looking for. Level 31 is a long way away though, but thankfully grinding on wild Pokemon to gain levels is completely free and the experience is unlimited. For transparency's sake, because I can theoretically get my Pokemon to any level through grinding, I'm never actually gonna grind them up. I'll just set them to the level I want them at. If that upsets you, I completely understand. But good news, instead of watching the video right now, you can watch it 2 months from now, which is when it would have come out if I spent my time fighting wild Pokemon. At level 31, Skitty learns the move Covet, which deals damage in addition to stealing the item from the opponent, as long as they have an item and you don't. So against Roxanne, Mudkip clears out the Geodudes, and for Nosepass, we bring in Skitty to steal Nosepass's Oranberry, and then go back to Mudkip to finish the fight. Defeating Roxanne gives us the first badge, but more importantly, $1,500 for winning, a TM worth $1,500, and one Oranberry worth $10. You may have clocked that we get $10 for the Oranberry, but we lose $100 for the Pokeball, with a net loss of $90. You are absolutely correct. Good math, proud of you. But trust me when I say that catching Skitty is worth it. In the Rusturf Tunnel, I defeat the Team Aquagrunt and rescue Pico, getting me in the door with a tech company's president. Yes, I'm making connections. I'm networking! This dude is loaded. I can't wait to see what he does for me. The Pokenav, well, I can't sell it, so it's worth $0. Your employee who gave me a great ball did more for me. Classic billionaire behavior. Leaving Rustboro triggers my rival to ask for a battle, which you can decline if you want. Normally I would, but this fight won't be accessible by the time I want to come back to it. So I fight Brendan now so I can get some money instead of no money. On my way back, there's a double battle that will now trigger because I have 2 Pokemon instead of 1. So I make sure to throw Skitty in the PC before passing through, allowing me to come back to this fight later. Mr. Bryony takes me down to Dewford Town, where I collect a few items and head into the Granite Cave. Using repels would be a waste of money, so I have the pleasure of suffering through an insane amount of Zubat encounters. Obtaining the letter from Steven allows me to skip the entire second gym, and immediately head to Slateport City. There's some more Team Aqua plot to get through, but we have a slight problem. To trigger this cutscene, you have to enter the Slateport Museum, which has a $50 entrance fee. I obviously want to avoid paying any money, but this is a requirement to beat the game, so there's literally nothing I can do. Except, there is. You see, if you just so happen to have less than $50, the game lets you in for free since it doesn't want to softlock you. If I can move my cash and retain the value in some way, I can trick the game into letting me in for free. But how do I do that? The key to this method is items. Items have value, it's whatever I can sell them for, but it's not factored into your money. When the game checks if you have $50, it doesn't look at your items at all. It probably should, but it doesn't. So if I buy items, I can retain value and make the game think that I can't afford admission. The key is just maximizing the value I get when I buy items. Ideally, I'd buy an item at one price, let's say $100, and then sell it back for the same $100. That would give me the same total net worth, with the game thinking I'm broke. But no items give me a 1-to-1 return. In fact, every item sells for exactly half the price. Every item except one. By buying exactly 10 Pokeballs, the clerk gives me a free item, a Premier Ball, meaning I get slightly over 50% return through this method. I transfer just enough money into Pokeballs to get into the museum for free. But don't worry, math nerds, I know what you're screaming into the calculator you're watching this video on. You're doing all this to save $50, you're losing way more than that every time you sell Pokeballs. That's a negative ROI, rah, 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 shut up. You're right, but shut up. There's a reason for this too. In Generation 3 games, there's a limit to the amount of money you can hold, just short of 1 million Pokedollars. If you hit this limit and then make more money, it just disappears because the game has nowhere to store it. We're absolutely gonna hit this limit, so I need to transfer my money to items at some point. Doing it now, doing it later, it doesn't really matter. But by doing this now, I save $50 and start building my cash back up from defeating the 2 grunts here. This allows me to move up to Route 110, where I have mandatory fights against Pokefans Isabelle and Caleb. This can be done as a double battle, but each of their Pokemon is holding an Oranberry. Skitty's on my team to steal items, but she can only steal 1 per battle. Covet steals an item the first time, so it fails on any subsequent use of the move. Since items can't be removed mid-fight, Skitty can only steal 1 Oranberry in this fight. I could catch more Skitties, but in this case, it's not worth it. They're just Oranberries. The only thing I can do here is to trigger the fights as single battles, meaning I can get 1 berry in the first fight, remove it, then get a second in the second fight. I'm leaving 2 berries on the table, but to make the most profit, that's what I have to do. I defeat my rival in the 2 other required trainers, and make it to Mauville, where I start collecting any item available to me. I beat Wally outside the gym, and complete the tasks that are standard within each of the Hoenn gyms. Defeat every trainer since they'll go away, and fight the gym leader, stealing the item off their ace Pokemon. With the 3rd badge in hand, I can teach Rock Smash to Marshtomp, allowing me to continue north with the goal of Meteor Falls. I'm collecting items along the way, ignoring the Daily Berry on Route 111 and the Sitsack on Route 113, as collecting Ash is repeatable and therefore banned. There's only 1 mandatory trainer in the entire stretch there and back. That would be Hiker Lucas, so I fight him but avoid every other trainer. Real quick, I have to talk about something really stupid here, because when I plan these challenges out, I try to consider absolutely everything. If it makes a profit and it's possible, I'm gonna do it. Minus this one thing. In Fall Arbor, there's a move tutor that teaches the move Metronome, a move that uses a random other move. It is theoretically possible to catch a Pokemon, teach it Metronome, and then have it roll Payday every single time for the rest of the run. Look, I'm just saying it's theoretically possible. Obviously, this would be astronomically unlikely, so I'm not gonna go that route, but I want you to know that I thought about it. There are 4 required fights with Team Magma in Mount Chimney, so I get all that money, then work my way down the Jagged Pass. Every trainer here is optional, so I avoid all of them. This one optional fight is special though. We don't need to worry about them right now, but we'll be back. In Lava Ridge, we fight the gym trainers, take the white herb from Torkoal, and grab the other items and Wynot Egg. Trying to put the white herb into my bag, I find that it's full. Obviously, I've been keeping items in my bag instead of selling them. Thankfully, I can store items in my PC as well. With the Go Goggles, I can pick up a fossil in the Mirage Tower. Picking the Claw fossil is actually profitable here. Neither can be sold, but turning it into an Anorith will save us some money down the road. The 5th gym leader can't be fought unless you have the first 4 badges. So I go back and fight all of Brawly's trainers, steal the berry from Makahita, then fight Norman's trainers. For some reason, exactly 1 of Norman's gym trainers is holding a berry, but you can't sneak that shit past me. I read the Bulbapedia walkthrough like 4 times looking for trainers like this. After stealing the berry from Slaking and defeating Norman, we only have around $48,000. But we can now do something that monumentally shifts the money we can make. By talking to Mom with the 5th gym badge, she gives you an item, the amulet coin. If your Pokemon is holding this item and they enter the battle, the prize money you receive at the end will be doubled. This is obviously great, so I immediately give Marshtomp the amulet coin, but we still haven't reached our full money-making potential. So we actually still want to avoid optional trainers as we surf over to Route 119 and up to the Weather Institute. Here, there's a mix of required and optional Team Aqua members, but after you defeat Shelly, all of them go away. So to maximize my earnings, I fight all of them here before taking on Shelly, now getting double the money from the amulet coin. Driving them out of the Institute gives me a gift cast form. For the first time ever, the cast form itself might be more useful than the Mystic Water it's holding. The item is only worth $50, but the cast form, well, you'll see very soon. We fight the rival, talk to Steven for the worthless Stethoscope, and send this Wingull off to accomplish something? You better bring back something good. I can skip Winona's gym if I want to, but there's really no point. So I fight every trainer and steal the berry off of Altaria. An Oranberry, really? The freaking Slackoth in Norman's gym had a better berry. I have to be careful not to get Skitty below half health, or else it will eat the berry it stole. Oh, it didn't trigger the berry. Oh. Just barely. But now, the 6th badge is ours, and the money is really starting to ramp up. There are no required fights on Route 120 or 121 until we get to the summit of Mount Pyre. We need to fight 4 grunts here to open the entrance to the magma hideout. But first, we have something we need to do. Remember this grunt just standing on the jagged pass? Well, they've been a busy little bee, apparently digging the entire magma hideout. Seriously though, they disappear after the Mount Pyre cutscene, so I have to fight them first. This is the one trainer in the game where it's best to fight them exactly between getting the amulet coin and right now. But after the Mount Pyre battles, I can enter the magma hideout. By evolving Anorith into Armaldo, I can teach it the HM for strength and clear out every trainer in here since, like usual, they all go away at the end. I defeat Maxie and now need to go to Slateport and then Lily Cove, and by the way, I don't have any Pokemon that no fly, so I'm walking everywhere. You think I'm gonna waste $100 for a little convenience? Please, it's like you don't even know me. I clear out all the trainers in the Aqua Hideout as well, picking up the items here, including the Master Ball. Something odd about this section is that you can still fight trainers after you defeat Admin Matt, but they will eventually leave, so fighting them now is still the right call. Another optional fight that I should do now is the final rival battle, which opens me up to the department store, although I don't want to buy anything. Also, the lottery is banned, like all fun things in this game. Now I can surf over to Moss Deep City, where the main task is to pick up the 7th badge. This fight is a double battle, which is fine, except Tate and Liza have 2 ace Pokemon, Solrock and Lunatone, meaning there are 2 citrus berries that I can steal. Remember that I've been in fights where I was unable to steal more than 1 item per battle, but there's a major difference between then and now, because now I have access to the daycare. The daycare allows you to leave up to 2 Pokemon with them, and this does 2 things. Pokemon increase their levels, and sometimes the 2 Pokemon will lay an egg. But Ryan, putting Pokemon in the daycare costs money. No. Taking Pokemon out of the daycare costs money. If I leave those Pokemon in the daycare, I won't be able to ever take them out, but they'll continue to lay free eggs. But Pokemon will only lay an egg if they're in the same egg group, and if they're opposite genders. With the Pokemon I have access to, there's only one combination that gives me additional item stealers. When I caught my Skitty at the very beginning of the challenge, I needed it to be female. Then, I needed my Castform to be male. By putting Skitty and Castform in the daycare, they will make eggs of the same species as the mom, meaning all of my eggs are little Skitties. That no rain dance and sunny day, just like Papa. I can now get 2 baby Skitties, level them up to 31 so they learn Covet, and take both citrus berries from Tate and Liza, all for $0. My Skitty and Castform are stuck in the daycare for the rest of their lives, but based on the one thing I keep asking them to do, I think they'll be just fine. 7 gyms in, and we're sitting at a cool 172k, with a lot of my net worth sitting in items. I fight all the trainers in the Space Center, and dive down to fight all the Seafloor Cavern trainers for the usual reasons. As I wrap up the plot in Sutopolis and the Sky Pillar, I'm still avoiding all optional trainers. Time now to get the 8th badge, which means fighting all the gym trainers first. Many of these battles have multiple Pokemon with held items, including a trainer with 2 nuggets. Skitty's return on investment is really starting to add up. There's even one trainer with 3 held items. So I get another Skitty egg and steal all 3 berries. 1 final berry stolen off 1, and now I have all 8 badges. There's nothing to do now except head straight for the Pokemon League. Victory Road has a few mandatory trainers, including Wally, but there are multiple paths you can take here. In fact, I have to make a choice on whether to fight Cool Trainer Shannon and her Claydol, or Cool Trainer Samuel and his Swellow, Mawile, and Kadabra. The trainer with 1 Pokemon is the smart play here, but I'll be back to fight Samuel and take a whole bunch of money from him. Now it's time to take on the Elite Four, and surprisingly, this is pretty straightforward. By getting everyone up to level 100, I don't need to use any healing items. I just take one of them on, steal the berry from their ace, and move on to the next. With one exception. Phoebe is the Ghost type leader, and one thing about Ghost Pokemon is that they can't be hit with normal type moves, including Covet. So, how can I steal the berry off her ace Dusclops? With very careful move selection, that's how. I have one Pokemon that can learn the move Foresight, which allows ghosts to be hit with normal type moves. That would be Swampert, but Swampert has no room for Foresight thanks to the pain of required HMs. I taught it Rock Smash because it was my only Pokemon that could learn it, and it's my only Pokemon that can learn Surf, Dive, and Waterfall. That's all 4 of its slots, so how do I also know Foresight? Well, I actually kept Foresight the entire time, and just before I taught Swampert Waterfall, I used the move deleter in Lilycove to delete Rock Smash, because now I have Armaldo, who can learn Cut, Strength, and Rock Smash. If not for them, I need to spend a Pokeball catching something else, so picking Mudkip and Anorith is the most profitable move. I can Foresight the Dusclops, Skitty can Covet, and we've defeated the Elite Four in Champion while stealing all 5 berries. I did it! I'm the champion! I have $377,000 and I've accomplished what all trainers set out to do. So now it's time for the real run to begin. Now that I've entered the Hall of Fame, my dad gives me the SS ticket. This allows me to shuttle between Lilycove and Slateport, but critically, it allows me to visit the Battle Frontier. Now don't worry, this isn't about to turn into a Battle Factory playthrough. Since you can replay those for infinite battle points, I'm not completing any of the battle facilities, including the battle tents around Hoenn. However, there are a few other things that you can do at the Battle Frontier, and we've got our sights set on this little house, because inside, an NPC will give you the Pokemon that can make you the most money in the entire game, Meowth. Meowth is the only Pokemon that learns the move Payday, which gives you money every time you land the move. Payday is so good, and it's why we waited to fight most of the trainers in the game. But there's only one Meowth available in Emerald, and you need to trade a Pokemon for it. So what Pokemon is the NPC looking for? Of course, it's the Pokemon that's been helping us make the most extra money so far, Skitty. I make sure to send a low-level Skitty over so Meowth comes back at a lower level, meaning I can teach it Payday by leveling it up. Thanks for trading with me, Isis. Actually, I don't think I want this Meowth after all. And now we can start going back through the entirety of Hoenn. Fighting all the trainers I skipped using Payday nets me even more money, but I'm not doing anything to break my established rules. I'm still fighting each trainer just once, and I just so happen to be using Payday to do so. I'm not using it on wild Pokemon, that's obviously repeatable and the money would be infinite. Every time I use Payday, I get a set amount of money back. 5 times Meowth's level. But the amulet coin doubles the money you get back from Payday. A level 100 Meowth is gonna net you a staggering $1,000 every time you use Payday. There's probably some shenanigans you can do where you min-max Meowth's level so that you get the optimal amount of money every fight for the entire game, and I did think about doing this, but it's way too complicated, trust me. Meowth has a neutral attack nature and only 4 attack IVs. Plus, I didn't evolve it into Persian, so it's weak enough that sometimes we need multiple Paydays to kill. I go route by route, city by city, fighting every trainer and collecting every item. Now that I have Armaldo, I can get the items behind all the cut trees, which isn't required to beat the game, but is required to get all the items. I've already run out of space in my bag, and now I've actually run out of space in my PC too. There's actually more items in the game than you can physically keep. Good game design, Game Freak. However, I have a solution to this problem. I can't hold any more items, but you know who can? My Pokemon. Since I can get endless Skitty eggs, I just hatch a lot of Skitties. And their only job is just to hold items for me. Sit in the PC, look pretty, and hold this Nevermelt Ice for the rest of your life. In the early routes of the game, there's a few trainers holding items, so Skitty can easily covet them, but it's actually too easy for her. Since Skitty learns covet at level 31, it has to be that level, which easily kills the level 7 Pokemon. This means I can either covet the item or kill with Payday, but not both. Just kidding, of course I figured out how to do both. In every one of these circumstances, the opposing Pokemon knows Growl, so I just sit in the fight and use my weather moves, waiting to get my attack nerfed. With lowered attack, now Covet won't kill them, and I can bring in Meowth for the literal money shot. Also, some of the trainers I skipped were double battles, but of course I only have one Meowth. To make sure I only do damage with Payday, I have Swampert clicking Foresight over and over in the opposing slot. There are some areas I completely skipped over that I can now go through, like the Trick House near Slateport. I have to be very careful though, because if I miss any items or trainers, I can't go back for them since the Trick Master changes the house to the next puzzle. But I do get everything in here, including the hidden nugget in the final room. I also didn't realize that new trainers appear in Mount Chimney and they're all so horny for some reason. What is going on up here? I'm sorry, what the fuck? No, I am not giving you my phone number. Fuck, come on. What the hell? I don't like any of this. Get me the fuck out of here. I also grab everything in the abandoned ship, including the scanner. This is a key item and can't be sold, but you can trade it to the captain for either a deep sea scale or deep sea tooth. These can evolve clam pearl, but who cares about that because you can just sell them. But they're the same price, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. I also check out Shoal Cave, manipulating the tides to get all the items. Shoal shells and shoal sands reappear daily, so I ignore all of those. Speaking of reappearing items, in Pacific Town, a man will give you a TM for return or frustration if you show him a Pokemon that really loves you or fucking despises you. You can do this every day, so I don't do it at all. I also hit up the Safari Zone for the first time. The Safari Zone costs $500 to enter and isn't required to beat the game, so I don't technically have to go in. But financially, it is the right call. The items you can pick up inside are worth more than the entrance fee, so it makes sense to go in. But there is a tiny issue. To pick up some of the items you need a Mach Bike, but to pick up others you need the Acro Bike. But you can only have one bike at a time, and you can only switch them in Mauville, meaning there's no way to pick up every item in one Safari Zone trip. The Acro Bike allows you to pick up a Calcium, which can be sold for $4,900. It's certainly worth it to go in once with the Acro Bike, but what about the Mach Bike? The only additional item here is the TM for Solar Beam. TMs all sell for different prices, but this one actually sells for $1,500. Since the entrance fee is $500, it's still profitable to go in a second time just for that item. Although going into the Safari Zone twice is worth it, there are some items that are just not worth collecting. On the SS title, there's a trainer with 6 Pokemon, each holding an Oranberry. Obviously, I could bring 6 Covet Skitties to take each one, but that leaves out my true moneymaker, Meowth. Each Payday is worth 100 times the value of an Oranberry, so it would be insane to leave Meowth out. For this fight, I bring Meowth and 5 Covet Skitties, so I can take 5 berries and have Meowth knock all of them out with Payday, meaning 1 Oranberry goes unstolen. Other items that aren't worth collecting are the held items for in-game trade Pokemon. Obviously, Meowth was obtained via trade, so the item he brought was a nice bonus. But there are 3 other in-game trades: Ralts for Seedot, Volbeat for Plusle, and Bagon for Horsey. In each of these cases, the traded Pokemon is holding an item, but they're all worth $25 or under. Pokeballs are worth $100, so it would be a loss of $75 to catch a Volbeat to trade, for example. Meaning, none of these 3 trades are financially profitable, with one exception. By catching a Ralts and trading it for Dots, the Seedot, we get a Chesto Berry. That itself is unprofitable, but there's more. An NPC on Route 123 will give you a TM for Giga Drain if you show them a Grass-type Pokemon. None of our current Pokemon are Grass-type, but we could actually catch one for free in the Safari Zone since you're given Safari Balls with your entrance fee. But there's more. There is an NPC in Sutopolis City that gives you a $1,500 elixir if you show him a Seedot. But not just any Seedot, he wants to see a record-breaking Seedot. Whatever that means. But is Dots a record-breaking Seedot? Thankfully, yes, Dots is a big ol' boy. For all of these reasons, completing this in-game trade is profitable. I actually caught Ralts way back at the beginning of the run and had it almost the entire time. This wasn't for a financial reason, but a quality of life one. I can't catch any Pokemon that learn Fly, but Ralts can learn the next best thing: teleport. This allowed me to quickly move around in some cases, which really helped me to not lose my freaking mind. That CDOT NPC in Sutopolis actually has a brother who will do the exact same thing, but not for a large CDOT. He wants to see a large Lotad, meaning it's also profitable for me to use a Pokeball to catch a Lotad and trade it for an elixir. But there's actually one way we can catch a Pokemon completely for free. All the different types of Pokeballs can be sold, with one exception, the Master Ball. I assume this is because it's so powerful that it could be considered priceless, but I don't give a shit about sentimental value. I give a shit about value. Financially, it's a brick, so I might as well use it. And by catching a Lotad, I can make a $1,500 profit. Who would have thought that using a Master Ball on Lotad would be profitable? But aside from the items, most areas have more trainers to fight, allowing me to collect money from payday after payday. But the money is adding up quickly, and before I knew it, I was reaching that $1 million threshold I mentioned earlier. That's why I'd previously bought Pokeballs to get into the museum for free. I knew I was gonna move my cash into items at some point, and that's right now. I can absolutely continue to buy Pokeballs 10 at a time to get a free Premier Ball and get slightly better bang for my buck. But why would I do that when there's a way to transfer my cash to items and retain 100% of the value? Meowth is not the savior of this run. The savior of this run is the Energy Guru. After you beat the Elite Four, a new game feature becomes available, Pokemon News. These announcements are shown on TVs throughout Hoenn, and every day a new event is active. This is how you get announcements for the Blendmaster and mass outbreaks. This is also where we find out about the Energy Guru sale. The Energy Guru is a seller in Slateport that honestly has nothing special about them, except that on days where his event is active, he sells items for half price, meaning you can sell back items for the exact same price you pay, a full 100% return. But by keeping them in your inventory instead of selling them back, you keep yourself available to gain more cash from trainer battles. By doing this, you can fully transfer cash to items, losing no value, and making the $1 million cash threshold completely unimportant. But remember, this only becomes available after you beat the Elite Four, meaning this was not something I could access before the Slateport Museum. Does that mean the Premier Ball strategy was still the right call? It's not, which is why I never actually did it. There you go. That's how you can get in for free. Really figured it out. Except, this is not the way to do this. This is not the way to do this. This is actually a bad idea. I'm not doing that. Although I knew I would eventually hit the cash threshold, I figured without Meowth, it wouldn't happen before I became the champion. And I was right, I didn't even get halfway there. So there was never a reason to use the Premier Ball strategy when I knew I could use the Energy Guru strategy later. The only reason to ever buy Pokeballs there would be if it cost me less than the $50 entrance fee, which of course it wasn't. The smartest thing for me to do in that situation was to do nothing. So that's what I did. So I finish up my journey through every route in the entire game, collecting items, collecting money from every battle, and transferring that money to proteins from the Energy Guru's half-price sale. This includes all the end-of-game areas like the Artisan Cave. I don't need to do any of the legendary Pokemon sections, because Rayquaza, the box legendaries, and the Regis all have no items or trainers, so there's no financial gain. The only thing I have left to do is fight the last trainer in the game, Steven in Meteor Falls. I can bring in Meowth to use all 20 of its paydays and still win the fight. So now it's time for the grand reveal. By the way, let me know in the comments if there's anything that I missed. I read through all of them because it really helps me to formulate my ideas for the next game. If you don't complete any repeatable actions, the total value of cash and items you can get to is $2,462,914. We are officially multimillionaires, and you can make more money here than you can in Fire Red and Leaf Green, even with getting Meowth significantly later. Let's go do something to celebrate. I'm ready to spend this money, but I'm over here in the US, so let me just do a quick conversion here, and $15,000. I did all that for $15,000?